Our gatherer's cabin gathers food from the surrounding forests. However, there are any number of other plants there which we can use as well. These plants can be gathered by an herbal hut. The herbs gathered there can be consumed by settlers to replenish their health.
Okay, herbal hut. That's 130, 140. This is 350. Okay, we need a herbalist. I'm never going to remember all this.
Well done. We can equally utilize the gathered herbs to convert them into medicine later on. It might happen that an illness breaks out in our settlement from time to time and spreads among our settlers. That's why we always ought to have enough herbs on hand.
Okay.
Radiation is the main reason why the health status of our settlement can decrease. Although our settlers already use protective clothing to shield themselves against environmental radiation, it might occur that our sources of water become contaminated. We should start to filter our water to prevent this from happening. We will need a great deal of charcoal to accomplish this.
Okay.
The charcoal kiln will burn wood to produce charcoal.
Understood. So we need charcoal kiln. Burn wood, so how about we put that near the wood place, which was here, wood place. That is the Forester's Lodge. We can probably move this here again. And then we get the charcoal kiln about here. Assign a settler to the charcoal burner. Okay. I'm going to produce 2 coal.
Great. We can use the charcoal in conjunction with a filtration system to purify our water. Unfortunately, our cistern is not able to do this. Only the water tower has the necessary equipment for this capability.
Okay, so we're going to have to build a water tower.
It would be a disgrace if we had to demolish our trusted cistern just to erect a water tower in its place. What we ought to do instead is upgrade the cistern itself. A water tower can store much more water and provides workplaces for a lot more water carriers than our old cistern.
Okay. Right, so we need one more recycler. The recycler here. And then we want another refiner. Instruct a recycler to produce plastic. Upgrade your cistern to a water tower. Upgrade the water tower, great. And then we need water carriers 3 to 5, we've done that. Whoa, cool. water. Oh no, sorry. Put it to the water carrier 3 of
Our new water tower is
Beautiful.
up and ready for action. Good work. Filtering the water is an important next step because clean drinking water is a key mainstay of any stable society.
Okay.
Let's begin with filtering our water. To save on charcoal, we ought to ensure that at least a little bit of water not contaminated by radiation is being stored in our water tower. Water gained from a well is never contaminated by radiation, so it suggests itself for that purpose. Then we can use the remaining charcoal to produce better protective clothing.
Okay. So we need to build a well. Let's put that here. Now we need a well keeper. Activate the filter on your water tower. Okay, it requires charcoal. Oh, let's do it. Construct a tailor's shop to produce activated carbon mask. Okay.
Good work. We are continuously taking steps towards being better and better equipped to be able to survive in this hostile environment. Filtered water is a precious asset, and later on we can even use it to irrigate our fields. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Not only our water can become a hazard for our settlers due to radiation, our food can too. We ought to erect a decontamination post to prevent settlers from eating meals that are contaminated with radiation.
Okay. So we need a decontamination post. We shall put that. Is there? Decontaminate.
Very good. The decontamination post is going to supply all buildings that stockpile food and are located in its working area in order to purify the food that has been affected by radiation. It's true. We should never forget that even when we optimally prepare and protect ourselves, we're still going to lose friends and members of our family time and again. We're going to mourn them, come what may. But if we're able to bury them in a cemetery, then we'll get over the pain and let them rest in peace.
Okay. Build a cemetery. Let's put that somewhere like over here. Need a mortician.
Okay, the cemetery will help us to quickly get a hold on ourselves and focus on the tasks that lie ahead. It's not a pleasant thought, but that's the way things are. At the very least, we're pioneers, aren't we? Maybe we ought to distract ourselves to lighten up the mood. We can erect a number of buildings to increase confidence in our settlement, including, for example, a campfire or a pub. In this situation, however, our best option would probably be to upgrade our town center. Settlers can visit the new town center, and by doing so, increase their confidence for a while.
Okay, so we go to the town centre. Mounted bus build. Alright, let's watch this. There's a little bus there. Let's upgrade that.
Very good. The new town center not only gives us more storage space, at the same time, it functions just like a campfire too. Settlers can visit the new town center, and by doing so, increase their confidence for a while. Now that we have made efforts to ensure the spiritual well-being of our settlers, we ought to attend to their physical health as well. Our settlers can get sick from time to time. Settlers who have become infected with a disease can die from it if they're not treated. Settlers will go to a medical facility to have themselves treated and will be admitted there, provided that beds are still available. We ought to ensure our settlers' medical health care.
Okay. We need a medical facility. Gee, that's going to take up some space, isn't it? We need a medic. Then we're going to produce 5 medicine. This is really a huge world. And I've only just used that little bit. I'm not going to remember any of this. Bits and pieces, but not much. A lot of practice. Okay, I'm going to produce 5 medicines.
With this step, we have ensured the survival of the settlement for a while. Very good work. Since more and more children are being born these days, we should start to plan for the long term.
Okay.
While cabins are a good way to get settlers to start a family, they only provide limited space. This can quickly lead to people having to live on the street. Allow me to suggest to you that cabins be provided only in a very targeted manner in order to control the population growth of your settlement. Nothing is worse than not having enough resources to provide for everyone. We ought to build a shelter to be able to provide other inhabitants with a roof over their heads too.
Alright, so we're going to build a shelter. And how about put that just there? Almost done. That's cool.
Very good. Remember that when children grow up, they're going to leave their parents' house and look around for a new place to live. It might happen that they don't find any home at all. We ought to build a shelter to be able to provide all inhabitants with a roof over their heads.
Okay.
I've already pointed out to you that it could become very dangerous if we were to run out of food at some point. Since a lot of people are going to be living in the new shelter, we ought to provide them with access to food in their vicinity. A hunting lodge can look for wildlife in the surrounding area to bring a little meat to the menu.
Okay. So we need a hunting lodge. Let's go. There. And then we need a hunter, raw venison and wild boar meat produced. And then wild boars, oh, are they?
Perfect. The hunting lodge equally provides us directly with food, but it functions somewhat irregularly because it relies on wildlife in the surrounding area. Nevertheless, it can be indispensable during a drought because even the deer and wild boar still roam around the forest. However, wild animals can not only be shot, they can be captured too. When a wild animal has been captured, it can be brought to a pasture and served there as livestock. In order to capture wild animals, you have to instruct your hunter to do this. You also ought to set up a pasture and assign a herder.
So reset your hunting lodge to the capture option. You need to build a pasture. And assign settlers to be a herder. Assign a type of animal to your pasture as soon as your hunter has captured an animal. Choose a type of animal, so yeah, they have to capture one first. Right, hunters. So we've got roe deer. What the heck? So choose an animal. Oh, there it is. Cheers.
Animals captured by a hunter are brought to a pasture where they are tended to and cared for by herders. Some animals produce resources such as milk or eggs. Other animals can only be slaughtered to eat. You ought to find out for yourself which type of animal brings you which benefit. On each pasture, You can choose which type of animal ought to be kept there.
Okay.
You must provide water for the animals you keep on your pasture. This enables them to survive and reproduce. When enough animals are fully grown, the herder will start to slaughter them. If you don't want animals to be slaughtered, you can also instruct the herder not to do so. Now your herders know how they ought to handle the animals. And now that you've already captured several animals, don't forget to instruct your hunters to hunt animals again in the future so that they can continue to gather and provide food. With our increased production, our stockpile is going to run out soon. The supply routes for our production buildings are getting longer and longer too. To tackle these problems, you ought to build a temporary storeroom and have roads laid out.
Okay, we want a temporary storeroom. And then we need to build a dirt road. Creepers.
Good. Temporary storerooms increase your settlement's general storage capacity. Place them in a targeted manner in order to shorten the routes for goods between your production buildings. Roads are equally a great benefit because settlers moving on roads can go distinctly faster than on a normal supporting surface.
Okay.
To improve the whole thing even further, we can build a market to improve logistics at the settlement. Besides being an enormous stockpile for resources that is even able to store water, the market is responsible for distributing resources within your settlement. What's more, it also increases your settlers' confidence.
Okay, so we're going to build a market. Oh, that's huge. Oh. These ruins. Alright, we need to go logisticians. Need this big thing built. Me a bus line.
Logisticians are able to amass resources from the whole settlement and bring them to the market. This improves the flow of your products and leads to your settlers having to walk shorter distances to fulfill their individual needs. The combination of these attributes makes the market the ideal building when you want to enlarge or even relocate your settlement.
Okay, got it.
The larger your settlement gets, the farther some settlers have to travel to get to all of the food you produce. To make life a little easier for them, you can build a food station. Logisticians who work at the food station will collect food from your storage buildings and production facilities and bring it to the food station.
Food station. And need logisticians.
With the new food station, your settlers are now able to supply themselves with food directly on site.
Okay.
If your settlement is supposed to grow even further, you can think about whether you want to provide additional food stations.
Okay.
Distributing food at your settlement is going to prove to be extremely practical. However, your settlers not only need food to survive, they need water too. To be able to distribute water in a targeted manner, you can build a water point.
Right there. So we got a water point. And let's put that near the house, I guess. We need another logistician. Oh. Well, they ain't happy, are they? Jeepers. Can't relocate them, can I? And demolish.
Now that your settlers also have a water point available, they can supply themselves with water and food. Similar
Weather
to how it's
stations
done
been
at the food
researched.
stations, this enables you to precisely control at which places your settlers are able to attend to their needs.
Okay.
Since we have our logistics under control, now we can concern ourselves with the weather and its challenges.
Yes, please.
We can build a weather station to enable us to make a forecast regarding upcoming weather and learn if potentially contaminated rain might be coming our way. It can also be used to prepare our crops and rainwater collectors we might have against contaminated rain by
Okay. So we want a weather station, which would be in technology. Yep. Well, it's huge.
Very good. Now that we know what sort of weather awaits us and how we can protect ourselves against contaminated rain by covering our crops and rainwater collectors, we ought to attend to collecting the rain we want.
Okay.
Rain not only humidifies the soil, it can also be automatically collected via rainwater collectors to generate a steady flow of additional water. Since we've already built our weather station, we're able to decide what kind of circumstances would make us want to cover our rain collectors.
All right. So we want a rainwater collector. Let's put that there. Almost done.
Never forget that our settlers might get sick if we distribute water contaminated with radiation at our settlement, even if they're wearing protective clothing. We should make sure that the collected water is as purified as possible.